Good evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching another segment of the TheCaliEffect. Today, we're going to be doing the Sylvan deck profile. And to the unfortunate events, I was not able to obtain every single one of the Sylvan cards, so we are using, and by a lot, I mean a lot of proxies. Hopefully, they'll be in the mail, and they'll be on the way very soon, but until then, we're going to be using what we have. First, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Sylvan Sage Koya. Now, Sage Koya is key. It opens up our rank 7 plays. Its excavation effect is nice, and then its last effect, being able to add Sylvan Charity from our graveyard to our hand if excavated, is amazing. 2 copies of Hermitry. There was a point in time where I was running 3, dropped it down to 2, found an important card that I should have been running in this deck overall. Hermitry is good for setting up your deck, stacking your Sylvan cards to the top of the deck, and he just works in conjunction. But overall, I like its effect of excavating a plant card, you draw a card. That is really good. He also opens up our rank 8 plays. 2 of the Dragon Rulers being Tempest and Blaster. Now, I wanted to maximize efficiency in both ways. Being able to special summon Blaster and go into a 7 play, being able to special summon Tempest and do the same, but also their secondary effects. Blaster being able to destroy a card on the field, and Tempest being able to add a dragon. These cards are amazing, especially if you're running Curry Bandit. You send them off to the graveyard with Bandit, and you could just do so many combos from there on. And then they're just really good cards, just in the sense that in the late game, they're just godly. You should be running them. I've had mixed reviews about them at first, but they've really proved themselves throughout games, and it's just so many applications where you'll regret not running them. 2 copies of Curry Bandit. Now, it's not an amazing mid-game card unless your opponent doesn't have anything and you guys are both top decking. Then he becomes godly. If your opponent has established boards and you're using Curry Bandit, then you're probably going to lose because they're just going to finish off whatever life points you have left. But if you're opening up a Curry Bandit, or if no board is established when you're summoning Curry Bandit, it's going to be amazing. Excavating 5, getting you your Sylvan Charity or your Miracle Fertilizer to your hand, and then being able to go from there. I really like the way this card works, and it just gets rid of all cards to the graveyard, so it makes your deck that much thinner. 2 copies of Lonefire Blossom. It special summons all of the plants from our deck. It's amazing. It's nothing else to be said. 2 copies of Flower Knight. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of this card, but I like the fact that if you excavate it, you can stack any Sylvan card to your deck. So when you're going into further plays, Flower Knight really helps. Let's say if you have 2 Hermitries, you send this to the graveyard, draw a card, stack a card, and then you send that to the graveyard, draw a card, and do whatever. It's a really good thing. Also, it's a level 4 1800 beater if all else fails, and he does excavate 1 on summon, so he's not that bad stats-wise. 2 copies of Peacekeeper. Now, I wanted to run 3, but 3 just felt way too cloggy. This card is amazing. Special summoning Lonefire, most of the time special summoning himself, special summoning just so many other things to the graveyard, just allowing us to go into deeper plays and make a lot of splashes into the deck. I probably would run 3 if I had the room or a way, or if you guys didn't like a card, you could probably drop it and run a 3rd one. 1 copy of Copy Plant. A lot of people underrate this card because Copy Plant still copies any monster on the field and becomes that level. It copies Flower Knight, now you can go to 8. It copies Hermitry, now you can go to a rank 8 play. It copies your Sage Koya, and you can go to a 7 play. Also, on top of that, it doesn't have to be excavated to be special summoned, so you can gain an effect, unlike Princess Sprout. And that's what really holds the edge. Let's say if you find your way to excavate Princess Sprout, you can just summon Copy Plant and go into an 8 play and don't have to waste your Sage Core or Hermitry. It's a really good card. 2 copies of Mushroom. Now, Mushroom is an amazing card just because of this. It allows you to excavate 5. That's an amazing thing, and it's back row removal. It's just a pretty good card. Oops. 2 copies of Princess Sprout, and yes, we still run Princess Sprout for that reason. Excavator, she becomes an 8 or a 7 or whatever you need to go into your plays, and her stacking effect isn't that bad. 1 copy of Spore. Obvious reasons, we can make Synchros, and it goes into an rank 8 play if we banish Sage Koya for it. Debris. Special summon Lonefire. It's an instant black rose, searchable by Tempest. Adds a lot of synergy to the deck. Or has a lot of synergy, I'm sorry. And then last for the monsters will be 2 copies of Martial Leaf. Martial Leaf, people like to either drop or run 1 of. Martial Leaf is still spot removal. It's still monster removal. That's amazing, first and foremost. Secondly, it is our strongest level 3, or it is our strongest Sylvan monster besides Flower Knight. that excavates the most. It excavates 2 cards upon summon. That's those 2 cards you put back to your deck with Sylvan Charity. It's still a really, really, really good card. Now on for the spells. We're going to be running 3 copies of Charity. Graceful Charity is strong. This card is even stronger. Being able to add those plant monsters or whatever Sylvan monsters back to the top of the deck and just keep pushing from there. It helps us excavate and going further into our plays. 3 copies of Miracle Fertilizer. Granted, I'm running 20 plus monsters in the main board, but I still find a way to not normal summon and go Miracle Fertilizer. The most amazing card in the deck, being able to special summon plant monsters and just go into that. Keep in mind, if you exceed summon with the monster used with Miracle Fertilizer, Fertilizer will stay, so then you'll be able to abuse it for future plays. 2 copies of Typhoon. Wow, I would probably drop this card for something else if we're going to a huge tournament. I know everywhere I'm going to see is Artifact, Trap, Tricks, Hands. Probably drop it for like a debunk, maybe even Maxis or something. But it's a really, really good card at a local level, just being able to get rid of those backward cards. You guys should already know how Mystical Space Typhoon works. What you guys have not noticed in my spell lineup, you probably did, is that I'm not running Soul Charge. If you guys would really desperately feel like Soul Charge is godsend in this deck, I guess you could drop the Typhoons and be a little more vulnerable. But I'm going to tell you why I'm not running Soul Charge. Soul Charge requires you to first have setup, which is not that hard with this deck. Secondly, you have to pay life points to special summon monsters from your graveyard. Now, if you guys look at most Sylvan builds, they don't run traps to protect themselves. Not even Mind runs enough traps to protect itself. So if you're using that Soul Charge combo, you better hope it's your best push. Also, normally the XC plays that you go into gets rid of your opponent's threats. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, but if your opponent can pull off of that, you're probably going to lose because you don't have another life points. Also think that Soul Charge is a win more card. You don't necessarily need it in Sylvans. You have enough plays to come back from certain situations or even given situations in this meta to come back and make a victory or control the board. That Gagarunix card is the best thing. Aurea is amazing, and it really helps a lot. That's just a couple of reasons why I don't run Soul Charge. I understand why people do run Soul Charge. The life point cost is still good. You do have a lot of graveyard setup, and it's a pretty decent card in here. So if you guys would like to, I'd probably drop the 2 Mystical Space Typhoons for it if, you know, if that's what you guys would do. But me personally, I'd rather have some other form of protection or destruction or like Maxi so I can get a draw rather than Soul Charge. Another thing that I wanted to point out is that this deck is extremely vulnerable to Max C, something that almost everybody already mains board. You go Soul Charge in a Max CU, it's either you use the monsters that you have and let your opponent draw tons and tons of cards and be able to counter you, or you bust. Typically, you're gonna bust. Now for traps, Typhoon, Bottomless, Solemn, the Holy Trinity. I play this unlike most people that don't play any traps that protect themselves. Normally just Phoenix, Wing Blast, and Trap Stuns. I play this because I feel it's necessary in Sylvans. It doesn't mess with anything. It helps the deck a lot. And come on, it's the Holy Trinity. Nothing else to be talked about. 2 copies of Breakthrough Skill. I was running 3 for a very long time. And I probably would go back to 3 just because it's just a really good card, a double negation, and gets us out of a whole bunch of locks. But I decided against it just so I can run 1 copy of Phoenix Wing Blast. Phoenix Wing Blast gets out some of those dead cards in your hand. It just helps set up a lot of things. I think it's a nice little tech. If it doesn't work out, I'll just drop it and go back to triple Breakthrough Skill. And then last will be 2 copies of Trap Stun. It's obvious why we run Trap Stun. We stun over the opponent's traps and then we go off. This deck loves to go off, and Trap Stun really helps it. Next for the extra deck, we're going to start off with the Synchros first. 1 copy of Star Eater. We do make this often. It's a really good card. Leo, we also make this card very easily. Hermit Tree plus flip face up Mushroom makes Leo, and Leo's pretty hard to get over. Stardust, we make this a lot. Black Rose, we make this a lot. I wanted to run HTS Psyhemoth, but we have to run Orient Dragon since we're running Debris Dragon. It's just a really good card. Armadas, it's pretty dope. Colossus and Formula Synchro. And now since I went through the Synchros, I'm going to talk to why I don't use Dandelion. I feel that Dandelion is still like one of those good cards, but it's just not necessary in Sylvan, just because it doesn't help further game state. It doesn't help you make plays. Maybe if I ran a lot more tuners, because I've only run 3 right now, and most of the time, 2 of them are being used for Exceed summons. So maybe if I ran more tuners, I'd probably consider Dandelion, but I'm not running it as of right now. For Exceeds, we're going to run 1 Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon. This card should be Alcee. I'm not even going to lie. That Sylvan card that nobody likes, personally, myself, I don't like him, but I love him because he's just so good at certain times. That 32 wall is too strong. Also, his effect is amazing. I think His effect reads, declare one card, name, and excavate. If you don't get it right, send it to the graveyard. If you do, add it to your hand. And then if you don't get it right, you get the detach and bounce one card to your opponent's hand. That's amazing. That card's really, really good. I think he's highly underrated out of all the Sylvans. One Divine Dragon Knight Felbrand, we can make him pretty easily. He's an amazing card. Decided against 2 because there was never a time where I needed to summon 2. One copy of number 11 Big Eye. One Draco Sack. These 2 cards would be Aurea, also known as Gay Garunix. Aurea makes the deck pop. It gets over so many set situations. You discard one card to look at the top of your deck according to the level of the plant monster you discarded. Also, you can detach one, look at the 3, and then it becomes a tiramisu from there. It's just a really, really good card. And then last card would be number 101. It's ironic how many times that we actually go into this card and how many times we can go into this card, even though we don't run enough targets. But there's been times where I'm like, I need 101, I need 101, I need 101, and this deck can make it. So I'm like, why not run that one ring 4? Thank you guys for watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Wait, hold on. Did I do? I'm sorry. I didn't even do side deck. My apologies. 2 copies of Ailer. Obvious. 2 copies of Maxi. Obvious. 2 XC Encore. Evil Storms really hurt us. 2 mistakes. We do not search at all. 3 copies of Royal Decree. I side these in when I see an opponent playing tons and tons of back row, which is a lot of the times. And I want to stop their back row and I want to get over this stuff. It's just a really good card that should be taken into consideration to all Sylvan players. Trap Stud doesn't always do the job because the opponent will be running Black Horns and stuff. And sometimes you won't, you only can use Trap Stun once. Royal Decree is permanent. I can always remove all my traps and play something better. 2 copies of Light Imprisoning Mirrors, F-Fusions, and 2 Debunk. Debunk gets the job done. Nothing else to be said. Now, I would like to say thank you guys for watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy.